What's going on, everybody? It's Warren. Welcome back to the Cosmic Wonder, and today we have the first full official trailer for Venom Let There Be Carnage. We got the teaser trailer a couple of months ago, and now we have the full trailer and a better look at Carnage, how Carnage comes to be, and how Cletus Kasady gets out of jail. Now we get a tiny little bit more about Cletus Kasady's backstory, why he wants Eddie Brock to cover his story before he's put to death. We see what Eddie Brock is up to, and it seems like his life is actually kind of sad at the moment. We get some new cool shots of Shriek, which I'll explain in this video, and of course lots and lots of awesome action of Carnage. So in this video I'll break down everything that you need to know scene by scene. And if you're new to the channel and you love Marvel and want to stay up to date on all things Venom Let There Be Carnage, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of the latest videos. And since the Venom Let There Be Carnage trailer is now out, hopefully that means that the Spider-Man trailer isn't that far away. So, ignoring the tiny little teaser that they give us in the beginning of the trailer, it starts with Eddie and Venom overlooking San Francisco. Eddie now has a Ducati motorcycle, a very, very fast motorcycle, but if you notice his arm, it's actually Venom that seems to be driving. Which makes sense. If you crash, Venom can take the fall and nobody gets hurt. We had a big motorcycle scene in the very first Venom film, and it looks like we might get another one in the second one. Venom then says, "Eddie, we should be out there snacking on bad guys," and we cut to a scene of Venom in San Francisco on top of a building sitting very, very much like Spider-Man. This is a very Spider-Man-esque shot right here. It almost looks like it's going to be Spider-Man jumping off the building, shooting his webs out, or doing a backflip off the skyscraper into the city. So big parallel here to Spider-Man, and hopefully we see the two of them on screen together in the next film. Now, when Venom says we should be out there snacking on bad guys, it actually shows Venom and Eddie rescuing somebody. Venom is in a back alley and it looks like he saved this woman on the right from this person that he has in his arms, and it looks like he probably eats this person. Hence the whole snacking on bad guys, which is a rule that Eddie placed on Venom in the very first film. You can only eat bad people if you have to eat anybody at all. And this scene looks an awful lot like the scene in the first Venom film when Eddie and Venom first eat a person. But then we see how Eddie and Brock are currently living together, what their situation is like, and what Eddie's mindset is like. And it doesn't look like it's doing too good. Venom says, "I am a predator, I need to be free." And it looks like Eddie is almost treating Venom like a dog. He has a tire for him to chew on in the apartment, and if you notice, the tire actually says Snooki on it. At first I thought maybe this is some kind of a joke, as in Venom hates Snooki from the Jersey Shore and is actually gnawing on the tire and kind of gnawing on her, but it isn't spelled the same way, so maybe this is just a little joke, but there's nothing really in Marvel that has anything to do with Snooki. At least not the name. Maybe this will be explained in the movie. But if you notice, Venom actually hits Eddie. You can see Venom's body in front of Eddie, and we can see him hit Eddie back. He hits Eddie to the floor and soon goes back inside of him, and this is where Eddie says, "You've got to get control over your aggression." But Eddie said right before that, "I need to be free." It looks like Eddie is pretty much trying to keep Venom inside of his apartment, which is why it's a chaotic mess. We can see holes in the ceiling, he's got the tire for him to chew on, and in the last trailer that we saw, he was making him breakfast and it wasn't really good. But here we see Eddie is actually kind of paranoid now over Venom. Venom is an alien symbiote, and Eddie says if you don't get control over your aggression, we're going to end up in Area 51, where they study UFOs and aliens. So Eddie's worried at this point that people are going to figure out about Venom. People are going to realize that there's this monster alien inside of him and take him to do tests on him. And it seems like he's really stressing about that. But you can tell that this doesn't really fly with Venom. Eddie says, "You live in my body, you live by my rules," and he puts up a sign that says, "No eating people." However, it looks like it's pretty hard to control an alien symbiote, as when Eddie says that, Venom looks at him and breaks his nose. And he says sorry at first, but it doesn't look like he has too much sympathy, because he says, "Let me fix it so I can break it again," and then hits him again in the face, and then he calls him a loser after. So Eddie's life right now probably isn't too ideal. Now, during this scene, we see the Ravencroft Institute. Now, the Ravencroft Institute in Marvel Comics is actually located in New York, but it does look like for the sake of the movie, it is going to be located in San Francisco. The Ravencroft Institute is a maximum security facility that specializes in the treatment of superhuman criminals, and it has a pretty big connection to Cletus Kasady, aka Carnage. The facility was actually originally built for Cortland Kasady, who was an ancestor of Cletus Kasady, and he had been driven insane by a cult and became a murderous cannibal. He eventually escaped and murdered his wife, Molly Ravencroft, hence the name. Eventually, Cletus's mother would end up in the Ravencroft Institute pregnant with him, and he would be born inside of the Institute. And it looks like Venom Let There Be Carnage, at least a part of it, is going to be about Carnage taking down the Raven Institute. Clearly, Cletus has a bad past there, and it looks like his lover, Shriek, is also in there as well. We see her inside of a glass cage, which we saw before, screaming, which is her power. She has the ability to manipulate sound. In Maximum Carnage, Shriek and Carnage escape together and are lovers, and then they go on a killing spree together. Now here we get another shot of a maximum security prison in which Cletus is held in. It's not sure right now if it is the Ravencroft Institute. It looks like it could possibly be the same facility, but it could also be a separate one as well. And here's where the post-credit scene from the first Venom film is kind of explained. We learn why Cletus Kasady wants to talk to Eddie. It clearly seems like Cletus has studied Eddie's work. And inside of this universe where they exist in, Eddie could have even been responsible for finding some evidence that got Cletus Kasady put in jail, but we'll see if they go with that story route. But Cletus has clearly picked Eddie because he wants him to specifically cover himself a serial killer. And here is where we kind of start to see how really insane Cletus is. He starts going on about how people love serial killers, and it looks like he's given Eddie some of his drawings that he's done in prison. We see a very large chapel drawn, which of course is going to be explained in the movie that we've seen before, and on one of the pictures on a tree it is written, "To thee strife was given between the suffering." Now this is actually a poem titled Prometheus, written by an English romantic poet, Lord Byron. It was written in 1816, and it's basically about a person who steals from a god to help humanity. Of the poem, the solitary, suffering, defiant hero is meant to empower readers, reminding them that the revolution begins with individuals who dare to imagine the future differently. Now, if you notice, it has a heart on it, which could be from Shriek. Perhaps the two of them, being mentally insane, could have imagined a future where they were actually heroes. And perhaps the carnage that Cletus keeps talking about is some sort of a revolution. Now, it could be a revolution against those who have locked him up in an institute, or it could simply be a revolution against society in itself. Either way, I think we know Carnage is coming. Now in the background, we have a post from the Daily Bugle. And as I pointed out in my last breakdown for the Venom teaser trailer, this is the same exact Daily Bugle from the Sam Raimi Spider-Man universe. It is exactly the same, implying some type of connection there. I'm assuming this will kind of be explained in Spider-Man No Way Home. But on the newspaper it says, "Inside the mind of serial killer Cletus Kasady." So here it looks like Eddie is simply typing up his story about Cletus. Now here there's a little bit of a twist on the Venom Carnage story. We find out how Cletus actually gets the Carnage symbiote. Now, I could be wrong here, but when Eddie is talking to Cletus inside of the prison cell, it seems like Cletus is kind of implying that he knows Eddie has the Venom symbiote in him. He says, "What's mine is yours, and yours is mine." He then attacks Eddie, bites him, and gets some of his blood, or the symbiote, inside of his mouth. And he even makes the statement, "I've tasted blood before," and that is not it. So regardless of whether or not Cletus knew that Eddie had the symbiote inside of him, this is very clearly how Cletus gets the Carnage symbiote. Now here's the little twist they put on Carnage. In the comics, Carnage is the offspring symbiote of Venom. It's his son, and that is essentially what we are seeing here in a certain type of way. Part of the Venom symbiote gets inside of Cletus, and then when they go to put him to death and inject him with the poison, this poison interacts with the symbiote, and the symbiote defends its host, Cletus, and it looks like it kind of infuses with the poison and then becomes Carnage. Now from here we have a couple of different scenes that they're kind of trying to make look like one scene here, but they are separate. One is Carnage breaking out of prison, and as we see here, Carnage is definitely way more intense than Venom. As the officers shoot him, we actually see a giant hole right in the middle of his stomach, which is crazy to think about because if you realize that underneath him is Cletus, you should simply see Cletus when this symbiote makes a hole inside of the symbiote, but no, everything shoots through it. We can see clearly through this hole, meaning Carnage is actually morphing Cletus's body and forming a hole inside of his actual body. So it looks like Cletus and Carnage could actually be bonded more than Venom and Eddie. And after some amazing scenes of Carnage breaking out of prison, us seeing many of what he can do, including shoving his tongue down somebody's throat to kill them, we see him eventually get Shriek out of the Ravencroft Institute. We see the two of them riding in a car away together, explosions happening in the background, and this is the same car we later on see Shriek inside, screaming at the top of her lungs, destroying everything around her, showing how powerful her screams actually are. We then hear Cletus say, "I'm not a crazy man. I am a vengeful one." And that's what I think this is all about. Getting back at the Ravencroft Institute, the institute that locked his mother up, the institute that he was born into, and the institute that probably stripped him away from his love, Shriek. And unfortunately, our Eddie Brock and Venom are what's standing in his way. Then we arrive at a cathedral. We saw this one in the very first teaser trailer, and it clearly means something of major significance to Cletus. He gets out of prison, goes to this cathedral, and we can see him here standing in front of these candles. It's here where we then see Venom actually kind of get scared.
Oh, shit! Whoa, where you going? That is a red one! You need to come out right now.
This implies that red symbiotes are actually much stronger and scarier than normal symbiotes. This is clearly taken back from their home planet, where all of the different symbiotes used to interact with each other. And since Venom kind of withdraws himself from Eddie, talking about that's a red one, we can definitely assume that the red ones are stronger and a lot more intense. And probably ruthless, which of course is what Carnage is all about. And as he says this, we get a look at Carnage, who looks like he's very ready to attack, lots of different weapons coming out of his body, all very, very sharp. But Eddie makes him an offer that Venom can't refuse. He says, "I will let you eat everybody if you come out." Venom says, "You promise?" Eddie promises, and then Venom says, "Oh yeah," and comes out. From here we see that Carnage actually has the ability of projectiles. I'm sure Venom could do this too, but Carnage is just going at it, firing off basically blade-like symbiote structures of himself at Venom. And it doesn't look like they stop until Venom eventually gets to Carnage. And from here, the two of them will no doubt battle it out in what's going to be an epic scene. Now, one of the last scenes that we get is of Cletus and Shriek walking away from a burning building. Again, I'm assuming this is the Ravencroft Institute, and the two of them are getting vengeance on the Institute, like Cletus Kasady said, "I'm a vengeful person." Shriek screams at the top of her lungs, as I mentioned before, seemingly breaking the car that she's in and everything else around her. It looks like Cletus actually goes to the store that Venom and Eddie go to a lot, and he kicks the clerk in the head. Now, it doesn't look like the woman that's usually there, Mrs. Chen, but it's clear that Cletus is searching for Eddie. And one of the final scenes I want to point out here is when Venom is seemingly jumping away from Carnage with a pole in his hand, but if you look behind him, it looks like the Carnage symbiote is absolutely huge. It's not in the actual form of Carnage, it's more like a wave of the symbiote trying to capture Venom. Now, this could be one of the final scenes where Venom kind of figures out how to break the symbiote apart, or this could simply be pure symbiote chasing Venom. And right after this, it's a blink and you'll miss it moment, but we see Carnage kind of separate himself from Cletus Kasady. We see just his head talking to Cletus Kasady, just like Venom did to Eddie in the first Venom film, and in this trailer as well. The trailer ends with Cletus saying, "Eddie, you feel like home to me, like family." And now they kind of are, because they're both the host of symbiotes. But it looks like Cletus and Carnage are definitely going to be having the upper hand all throughout this film, probably all the way up until the end. Now, of course, the very final scene is of Anne revealing to Eddie that she is engaged. Engaged to Dr. Dan Lewis, who we met in the very first film. And clearly Eddie and Venom are not okay with this, because even though Eddie says that he's happy for them, he does slap him in the face. And what this shows us is that even though this movie is going to be very, very intense, it's still definitely going to have some comic relief. Now, overall, I think Carnage actually looks pretty dang good. It does look intense, which is something that I was worried about, and I think a lot of other people were worried about as well. But that scene of Carnage shoving his tongue down that police officer's throat leads me to believe that even if this is going to be rated PG-13, it's still going to be just fine. But let me know what you think about the Venom Let There Be Carnage official trailer. What did you think about Carnage? What did you think about the trailer overall? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any future videos. Please give the video a like, and for live updates, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter. As always, thank you all so much for watching. Woof woof.